Hi everyone. Today I'm going to go over what I've used for sketchbooks and watercolor journals. Many of you have asked what I've used on certain sketches that I've done, so I thought, well, why don't I show everybody everything I've used and what I like, what I don't like, and you can make your decisions from there. So where I will start is from the beginning. I'm not going to show you all my sketches and stuff because a lot of them are very bad. But this first one is a spiral journal that I bought thinking that I would prefer these. And for me, being a left-handed person, unless I start using books backwards, which isn't going to work out if somebody else looks at them, I don't like having my hand up against the spiral bound notebook. And if I want to do a double wide spread, then you've got this going down the center that separates your sketch. And I thought I wouldn't like that. But if this is the type of journal you prefer, this one is made by Canson. And I would say I don't have the specs on this right here with me right now, I don't think, unless it's in the front. Nope. I would say that this paper is probably 80 or 90 pound. I have used some watercolor in it, and I've used acrylic in these books before without any problem. As long as you're not soaking it with heavy wet into wet types of watercolors, then you should do pretty good with those. Then there's this one, which is a smaller version. That one is probably, I would say, probably about a 7 by 9 or 7 by 10. 7 by 10. That was pretty close. Okay, now this one, I should have checked. I didn't know what that first one was. When I went back to the store. That one I got at Michael's, and I think I got this one at Michael's also. And I bought this more for, I may have got this one at Hobby Lobby, and I bought these more for doing value sketches before painting, mostly en plein air when I'm outside and I wanted to do a value sketch before I started my acrylic or oil paintings. I think all of my plein air paintings were in oil or pastel. That was the other thing. These are tear out, if you'd like that. The paper is sketch paper, and it's kind of, I don't know. I don't really like the feel of it. So this book, I don't think I've even used a page in this book. No, totally new, never used. Then another style that I've used, and I really like this style if I'm going to use a spiral bound. This one is great. This one's made by Cachet, and it looks like it's a De La Roni book. And when you open it, it has a little thing here, and it comes with a number 6 watercolor brush right on the side. And I don't know if they're synthetic sable or if they're sable, but they're pretty nice. And I love the magnetic closure on these books. They're just nice if you don't want to have the rubber band. But the paper in this, I would say, is probably, again, it might be a little heavier than the other one. I'd say this is 90 or 100 weight paper. And it's got a pocket in the back for watercolor paper or anything, or tickets or whatever. If you like that kind of journaling, you can stick stuff in the back. So if you're a spiral book kind of person, I would recommend this one. I really liked that one. Now, a couple that I've bought that I did not like, and I bought them mostly for their look. One of them was this style. I wanted to have a leather-bound sketchbook that I could replace the books in. So I bought this one online on Amazon. I don't know, I think it was probably about $24. It's pretty thick. It's got 5 booklets in it, and it measures, it's smaller. It's 5 by 7. The cover is. But I'm going to tell you, this paper is horrible. And I looked at a lot of reviews on the paper. I can't even use, I'll show you a couple of the sketches I did. I couldn't even use watercolor in them. it just didn't work. It was very strange. I could use pen, but the pen would bleed and feather out a little bit. And the texture of this paper, they say it's handmade paper from India. And it's just got a very strange texture to it. I wish I could get you to see this texture. I don't know if you can, but it's almost fuzzy. And I don't think it's even good for writing if you were going to be writing in it. I have been writing in it only because I have to keep a journal for certain appointments that I go to. So I've been using it for that. But even with that, it bleeds a little bit. So I'm not real thrilled with it. But the nice thing about this journal is that this leather comes apart so that you can put new books in. See, it's sewn through here. And if you get to the center, well, here's the center of one. You can take that apart and you can put your sketchbooks in it and then re-sew them back together. So one day I plan on doing that. But I'm not happy with that paper at all. Another one that I'm not happy with is this one. I believe I got this at Hobby Lobby again. Handmade paper from India. And I thought it was watercolor paper. But it is not watercolor paper. It is, again, this weird fuzzy paper that it feels like it's almost got like a fuzzy towel finish to the top of it. I don't know if I've even painted in this one. I tried to do that Iroquois Lighthouse one in here, and I had to do it with, I did it with pen. It looks like the pen did not bleed, but I had trouble getting the pen to write. And then I went over it with watercolor pencil. And not happy with that at all. And then it also bled through. The pen bled through to the next page. So I bought it mostly because I loved the cover. Again, though, it's got this elastic sewn-in binding, and I think that I could make my own. And take this apart, make my own, and just put watercolor paper in it. And so that's why I'm keeping it. And I think this is faux leather because if I look at the top, it's kind of worn. And it's funny because I've never really used it except for that one page. Now, on to books that I've been successful with. Well, I was successful with that one, that De La Roni one that I liked, the cachet one. Another spiral bound sketchbook is the watercolor books by Strathmore. These are nice little books. Have no problem with them. This was a homework assignment when I was starting my pastel classes. There's a barn that I did. But anyway, you can get an idea that this paper is pretty good. I don't know what that is. A doorway of some sort. Winter landscape. So, anyway, they're not very big, though. They only hold, I don't even know how many pieces of paper they hold, but 15 sheets. So, it's a 30-page book. And this is from their, is this the recycled series? I don't know. It's the windmill series. 140 pound, 6x9. Those are nice books. Now, this has been one of my favorite sketchbooks, these Pentallic books. And this is the one that I showed you a while back, I think. This, and I told a few people what I was using for sketches online because I had a lot of them. Here's another one that I'm working in right now. But the paper is 100% cotton. It takes ink very well, takes watercolor very well. I love this paper. It's just really nice paper. And this was a book that I did, last summer, I think. Yeah, I was up north and I was looking at all the birds in my backyard, and every bird I saw I added to my book. So anyway, and that's part of the inside of my house. But this is one of my favorite books. Now, there's a little spot up here that you can put a pen in. When you buy these books, they do not come with anything, but you have this nice elastic to put your pens in. And one pen that I love to put in there is my platinum carbon pens. They fit in there just great. So I do use that a lot. When I'm done with a sketchbook, I always put the volume on the side. My volume numbers are off because I found a bunch of sketchbooks that I had used before, but these were the ones that I was getting serious on. So I started putting volume numbers on the sides. Another one by Strathmore. It has a, I don't know if this is real leather or faux leather cover. It might be faux leather. It's got a very interesting feel to it, but it feels like leather. So if you're against leather or fur or anything like that being used, check into these. I think they're fake. This one may be leather. And these are very inexpensive. They have a lot of sheets in them. They're 5.5 by 8.5, which is standard for sketchbook size. Pretty standard. 3.5 by 5.5, 5.5 by 8.5. Those are the most common sizes. And then you can get into bigger ones. And I'll show you some bigger ones in just a second. But these are only, I think they're only about $16 or $17 on Amazon. And very good. At least for Prime members. I don't know if the price has changed, but I don't think so. Now this one is another one by Strathmore, like I said. And the paper in this is 140 pounds. It is not 100% cotton. I don't believe there's any cotton in this. It's their 400 series, just 140 pound, 300 GSM watercolor paper. The sizing in this can cause problems for some inks. Noodler's inks dry a lot slower on this kind of paper, so you have to be careful with that. That's another reason that I love the Pentallic books, because I have less of a problem with that. So this one again, I'm not sure what the size. This is probably 5.5 by 8.5 also. Let's just see here. No, it's 5 3/4 by 8.5. So probably 5.5 by 8.5. It's not including the binding. Then this one is one by Global Arts. It's got a canvas cover. Mine is very dirty because it was heavily used out in the field. Has an elastic band. Also has the ribbon. And so do the Pentallic books. The Strathmore 400 series do not have an elastic band to keep it shut. You could always put a rubber band over it, though, you know, if that's what you needed. But they stay closed pretty well. This was not a problem. Also, I don't know, there is no pocket in the back of these books. There is, I believe, yeah, there is a pocket in the back of the Pentallic books. The Global Arts books. I tried this book. I was interested in it after hearing about it from other people, and it's an okay book. I think this is, I believe this is 25% cotton. I'm sorry, my rings are stuck together. I couldn't move my fingers. 25% cotton. That's my house up north. Let me find an empty page here. I can find an empty page. I don't think I have an empty page in this book. So, you guys have seen a lot of this stuff already. No, I didn't have any empty pages. So, anyway, there is no pocket. Oh, yeah, there is. There is a pocket in the back. It's a clear plastic pocket, which is kind of cool, and it has a flap over it. Does not stick down, but you could tuck it in easily enough if you wanted to. Has the elastic band over the top. Like I said, canvas cover. And this one, I believe, is 5 by 8 or 5.5 by 8.5. Let's see here. 5 1/4
by 8¼ Yeah. So pretty standard size. I mean, these are all very close if you look at the sizes. The Strathmore is a little bit taller, but then let's see what else I got here. Okay, here's another Strathmore one that I bought. This was an accidental buy. I wanted to buy a big book. This one is 11 by 14, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, 11 by 14. And again, it's got that same cover. I believe it's faux leather. I really haven't used it yet. I have one nasty page that I was doing and it didn't turn out right. But I like to do this into my urban sketching books. I put a scene in the front that I just make up. And it's on the non-watercolor paper, so it's a little ripply. But this is not watercolor paper. This is mixed media paper. I thought I was buying the 500 series watercolor paper, which was, I believe in that book, it was 100% cotton, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I looked at the price and then I saw another one right below it and I clicked on it and thought, ooh, I can get this one for $23.95 or whatever it was. And I accidentally bought the mixed media book. But I will say that the pages are pretty heavy. This is 500 series mixed media paper. It does not give me a weight, but it's pretty heavy. I would say it's probably at least 100 pound, probably 100 pound paper. And I think it'll be fine for watercolor as long as I'm not doing heavy wet into wet mixtures. It's a smoother paper, of course, because it is mixed media. So if you like a smoother paper for sketching on, then this could be a good bet for you. On these other books that I showed you, the Global Arts one, the standard watercolor paper is fairly smooth. I can see a little tooth to it, but it's not bad. The Pentallic, I believe it might be a little bit rougher. Yeah, it is slightly rougher. This is my backyard. But not much. And it takes pen just fine. I don't have a lot of skipping or anything like that. And like the Strathmore books are usually always pretty smooth. Then I just recently purchased this one. I'm so excited to use it. I have not christened it yet. This is a Moleskine book. People say Moleskine. I looked online to actually find out how are you supposed to say it, because Moleskine, I would think, would not have an E on the end, right? But it is S-K-I-N-E at the end. So I thought, well, it's either Skine or Skeen. So some people say Moleskine, some people say Moleskine, some people say Moleskine. And they say all of them are correct. So call it whatever the heck you want to call it. I call it Moleskine. But this is a watercolor book. It has a little more tooth to it. I'm going to shine a light right in my eyes to see if I can get you to see the tooth on this paper. I wanted to see what all the hype was about on this watercolor paper. I don't know if I can get the tooth to, maybe, yeah, there. Now you can see the tooth on the paper a little bit. It's not too rough. Pretty standard for watercolor paper. Actually, maybe a little smoother than like a Fabriano paper or something. 140 pound. I think it's 35% cotton. It's not 100%. Comes with a pocket in the back that sits vertically and has an elastic side. Or no, maybe it's a ribbon side. But anyway, it is a bigger book. I believe this is 8 by 12 or 8 by 10. Oh, no. 8.5 by 12. And I cannot wait to use it. This is going to be my next book to use. I'm so excited to use this book and to see exactly how the paper takes paint. I watch another watercolor journal guy or sketching or watercolor sketching guy on YouTube. His name is Patrick. He's got a hyphenated name. I can't remember the first one, but the last one is
Guerny or something like that. I'm going to post a link to one of his videos. His style of painting is very different, but I really like his work. So, and his, I found him when I was looking at other people's autumn watercolor paintings were popping up on my sidebar after I had posted my watercolor painting, and I saw it and I thought, oh, that's beautiful. So I went and watched it. His videos are very long. He does a start to finish video. So they're like 45 minutes to an hour usually, but they're fun to watch. So I will post a link to his videos in the description. And he uses these books, and he got me intrigued. So I thought, I'm going to try one. Then another one that I just bought recently is another one by Global Arts. I believe this is by, yeah, Global Art Materials. This is a handmade watercolor book, 9x6 landscape. These are all landscape journals. I prefer landscape journals. Take this off the back. This was produced in the Punjab region of India. It is 100 post-consumer waste, so it's recycled materials. Their watercolor paper, I believe, is 100% cotton. All deckled edges. Deckled edge means rough edge, if you're not familiar with the term. That means all of the edges are not smooth edges of paper, which is something that watercolorists tend to like. We like that look. So, and the outside of the book is a crinkled kind of paper cover, but it's glued down so heavily that it feels very, very sturdy. I was wondering if it would lay flat. Initially, it would not, so I started to break the binding in order to get it to lay flat. So let me pick up the center of a booklet here. Or I mean, not a center. I don't want to pick a center because those always lay flat. So I was able to get it to lay flat without any problem. So if that's an issue for you, you can kind of break it and get it to work. So, but this is absolutely rough watercolor paper. So it would not be good for like fountain pen sketching, I wouldn't believe. Let me see if I can get up close of the roughness of this paper here. How did I turned my light back. That's why I can't get it. Okay. You can see just how rough this paper is. It's got very deep texture. And every one of them is a little bit different. In fact, there were some that I thought, wow, there were actually almost, like, look how heavy this one is. But I'm excited because I love that look, especially when you're doing dry brushing with your watercolor brush. This one's even heavier. And some of them have little lumps and things in it. I think that's so cool. There's a good view of the roughness. So I am excited to try this one, and it's a very thick book, but I don't think that it has many more pages than some of the other ones. I think this is a 24 or 30 page booklet. I counted them one time to see, so it's something like that. I wonder if it's on here, if it says how many pages. 140 pound, 300 GSM paper, deckled edges, 100% cotton fiber, internal and surface sized. I did hear one person stating on their website, I gotta push this light away, I'm getting blinded by the light. Blinded by the light. Anyway, I heard one woman saying on her channel, she doesn't do the same kind of watercolor that I do, but she does do some watercolor, and she loves this book. She absolutely loves it, and she won't use it. She keeps saving it, which is so silly. She used like one page out of it. And then another person said to me that, or said on their channel, that they did not care for this book as much because of the sizing that was used. So when I start to use this book, I will do a video and I will tell you exactly how I like that and how I like the Moleskine book also. But those are all the watercolor journals that I have used and sketchbook journals that I have used. I prefer the bound edge sewn edge with a book that lays perfectly flat when you open it, so that I can work completely across the book. I'm wanting to get into a little bigger book, so I'm really looking forward to the Moleskine because of the size. I could not find, in the Pentalic book, this is the only size that I can find. I still need to do a little more searching. Maybe they have a website that I can go to and see if they make any other sizes in these sketchbooks. I think they do have a smaller one, like the 3.5 by 5.5, but I don't know if they have a bigger one. And I really would like an 8 by 10 or an 8 by 12 or something like the Moleskine book. But if the Moleskine book works, then I'm going to continue to buy it. People talk about the price of these books being so high that they're expensive. I did not find that. I think this was, for an 8 by 12, I thought this was very reasonably priced. It was about $23. Now, of course, Strathmore books are a little cheaper. The mixed media book that I got was probably about the same price for an 11 by 14. But I don't like their paper as much. I'm not a real fan of their 400 series paper. And then they have 500 series. And then they go into these other series like Platinum or Optimum, or I forget what their series are called when they get up into their heavy cotton papers. But they do have professional paper. I've just never tried it. I want to give it a shot and see if I like it. But right now I am so into the Fabriano Artistico regular watercolor paper that I tend to use this more to the cold press. And then, of course, I have the hot press that I did that autumn watercolor painting on for you that I was complaining about all the way through. But after it dried and I really felt how heavy duty that paper was, I loved it. And when it dried, it laid perfectly flat, unlike Strathmore watercolor paper that you'll have a bow in it, or you'll have little lifts and bubbles, and I have to either press it between books or steam it with an iron, and I don't like to do that to my paintings, so that's why I prefer this other paper. But I did start on Strathmore, and I used it for years before I felt comfortable enough to spend a little extra money on a different type of paper. So, and Fabriano makes another paper. Hang on one second. They make a good in-between paper too, which is cheap. Very cheap, I think. This is, let me take it out of its skin here. No, I've never opened this. Today's the day. I like this for practice. I like it for making greeting cards, all sorts of stuff. For in journals, it's fine. This is their Fabriano Studio watercolor paper. This one is 25% cotton, which is a step up from Strathmore's student papers. And it's 140 pound or 300 GSM. This is their 11 by 14 book, and it comes with 50 sheets. Fabriano is made in Italy. You can probably tell by the name Fabriano. Their paper is just slightly, their cold press is slightly textured. It's not too heavy, but this is not a sketchbook either. And, whoops, my light just fell off the thing, but you can see the texture there. Not too bad. I'm going to shut this light off now. But anyway, I use this paper a lot, and I don't have a price on it. But if you look on Amazon, or maybe I'll try to remember to link it. If you're looking for a good watercolor paper, this book will last you. I mean, it will last. And it was very reasonably priced. This one is their 11 by 14. I've also gotten the same book in 9 by 12. And I've gotten a pack, I think, with both in it, which was kind of nice. But I love the 11 by 14 because you can cut it into different sizes, or you can use it big. And the price is so reasonable. Now, the only thing with this paper that I found that was a negative is that when I was making mistakes and getting too heavy in my wet into wet, you'll see the little cotton fibers pop up, like they'll pill a little bit. So you have to be careful with that. But it's great for just doing regular painting on. I don't do a lot of heavy wet into wet with this. And with 100% cotton paper, you don't get that pilling as much. I mean, you can if you totally soak your paper, but a good paper shouldn't do that. And the 100% doesn't do that, that I have seen. I haven't had any problems with that. And I didn't have any problems with it in the hot press either. The only thing I found with that hot press was seeing little hairs. And I don't know where they came from. I did have my paper sitting on the floor, kind of leaning up against something, so maybe that's what caused it. But, you know, when you're vacuuming or whatever. But anyway, so that is all of my books. Pretty sure I hit them all. Oh, and here's a look at the smaller Fabriano book, which I have paint all over. I must have been doing something with it, but same thing. It's cold press, 140 pound. Oh, this is 8 by 10, not 9 by 12. But I do like the paper. It's very nice paper. I also originally bought this paper to use for pastel painting. I don't know if many of you know I'm a pastel artist. And what I do is I either gesso or I mix a gesso pumice powder mixture, and I put it on my paper like this one is that way now in order to give it extra tooth and make it more like a sandpaper, and then I can do pastel over it. Although with cold press paper, it doesn't work as well because you have the bumpies, the tooth of the paper. So I usually use hot press for that. And that was an accidental buy. I did have on here for pastel, but I quickly changed my mind. So anyway, I'm getting off base, but that's all my watercolor journals and sketchbook journals. And you can see what you like, but so far my favorite is that blue Pentalic book. I just love it. And I always end up going back to it. So we'll see how I like the other ones. I'll keep you posted. Everybody have a great day. Now I'm going to get on to my Inktober Day 12. I'm not sure what the prompt is today, but I'm going to try to get a video up for that too. I don't know. I've never posted 2 videos in one day before, so I don't know how that'll work out, but we'll see. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.